In this lesson, we're going to talk about the associative property. The associative property says that you can change the grouping of the addends and you will still end up with the same sum. So you might be wondering, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at an example, and you'll see these examples on algebraclass.com as you're working through them. So our first example is 6 plus 7 plus 3. So notice that I have a grouping here. Now by the term addends, each of the numbers that you add together is called an addend, and the answer is your sum. So notice that I have grouping symbols, or the parentheses, around 6 plus 7. That means if we're using the order of operations, which we should always be using, I need to add 6 plus 7 first. So I know that 6 plus 7 is 13. And then if I add 3, I get an answer of 16. So the associative property says that you might have the same set of addends, but this time we're going to group the 7 and the 3 together. Because I know that 7 plus 3 is 10. And remember, making a 10 in math is great because it's so easy to work with. 6 plus 10 is 16. So I get the same answer if I group the 7 and the 3 together, or if I group the 6 and the 7 together. And that's what the associative property says. We can change the grouping and we'll still end up with the same answer. So the associative property works with addition, and it also works with multiplication. And it's great with multiplication because if you take a look at this problem, 5 times 4 times 25. This problem is kind of hard to solve. We know that 5 times 4 is 20, but then we have to multiply 20 times 25. And for many people, that's not mental math. That's going to require you writing it down and doing the multiplication, and that can be kind of tough. So what we can do is, well, we do get an answer of 500 here. But the great thing about the associative property is you can have these 3 same numbers in the same order and say, but I know that 4 times 25 is 100. And 100 times 5 is 500. And that's so much easier to multiply than 20 times 25. So when you can see that 2 numbers can be grouped together to make the mental math easier, these properties come in very handy. So you know that the associative property works with addition and multiplication, and you can change the grouping to help you mentally solve these problems much faster and easier. Now, what you need to remember, and this is the same as the commutative property if you watch that video on algebraclass.com, the associative property only works with addition and multiplication. It doesn't work with subtraction or division. So just to prove it to you, let's do one problem together, and we're going to do 13 minus 1 minus 6. And I'm going to do the same problem, but I'm going to group my numbers differently using the associative property. So here, in the first one, I need to do 13 minus 1 first, which is 12. And then 12 minus 6 is 6. Over here, I need to do the parentheses first. So 1 minus 6, that's actually negative 5. And then I have 13 minus negative 5, which is the same as 13 plus 5, which is 18. So notice that when I changed the parentheses, I didn't end up with the same answer. I ended up with a completely different answer. And therefore, we cannot use the associative property with subtraction or division. We can only use it with addition and multiplication. So use this property to help you as you're working through problems mentally to make the problems a little easier.